The first thing people noticed was not the three men hitting the floor. It was the look on the little girl's face when fear turned into hope in a single breath, the kind of hope that only comes when a child believes her father can stop the world from breaking. In that quiet roadside diner, under humming lights and the smell of coffee, everything changed in less than 10 seconds, and nothing would ever be the same again. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of ordinary people doing the right thing, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Stories like this deserve to be remembered. He had not planned to be a hero that morning. He was just a single father trying to survive another day. Years earlier, the ocean had been his home, discipline his language, danger his routine. Now, the Navy SEAL who once led missions in the dark was measuring his life in school drop-offs, grocery bills, and the fragile smile of his daughter. His wife had passed away 2 winters earlier, leaving behind a silence that never quite left the house. Every morning, he woke before sunrise, not because of habit, but because grief did not allow sleep to linger. The diner stop was supposed to be simple. Pancakes, a glass of juice, maybe a laugh if he was lucky. His daughter sat across from him in a red shirt, legs swinging nervously beneath the booth. She liked this place because it felt safe, bright, and predictable. He liked it because it reminded him that life could still be ordinary. That illusion shattered when shouting rose near the counter, sharp and ugly, cutting through the clatter of plates. 3 men had surrounded a young woman in a faded uniform. Her posture was rigid, her eyes darting, her hands trembling as she tried to back away. The men were loud, intoxicated by power rather than alcohol, feeding off each other's cruelty. No one else moved. People stared at their plates, at their phones, at anything but the scene unfolding in front of them. The father noticed the shift in his daughter first. Her shoulders tightened. Her eyes widened. She leaned toward him, fear blooming across her small face as she watched the woman being cornered. The words that left her mouth were not loud, but they landed with the force of a command he had obeyed his entire life. She begged him to help her. He did not stand up immediately. Years of training had taught him restraint, calculation, and consequence. He assessed the room, the angles, the exits, the weight of what would happen next. He was no longer active duty. He was a widower. A single dad. A man who could lose everything if this went wrong. But he was also a father whose daughter was watching him learn what kind of man he would be. When he moved, it was calm and deliberate. There was no shouting, no dramatic gesture. One moment he was seated, the next he was between the woman and the men, his presence alone shifting the balance of the room. The confrontation was fast, controlled, and devastating. Training took over where fear might have lived. In seconds, the men were disarmed, restrained, and unable to continue. Plates rattled. Someone screamed. Someone else called the police. He did not chase applause or linger in triumph. He checked on the woman, made sure she could breathe, then returned to his booth. His daughter stared at him with a mixture of awe and confusion, as if she had just discovered that her father was larger than the world she knew. He held her hand tightly, grounding himself in the warmth of her small fingers. By the time authorities arrived, the story had already grown legs. Witnesses spoke in fragments, some exaggerating, some minimizing. The father gave a simple statement and refused attention. He declined interviews. He did not want recognition. He wanted pancakes that had gone cold and a normal ending to an abnormal morning. The next day, the knock on his door came early. He assumed it was a neighbor or perhaps a delivery he had forgotten. When he opened it, the sight before him made his chest tighten. A uniform stood on his porch that he had not seen up close in years. Polished shoes. Crisp posture. The presence of command. A Navy Admiral had come in person. News of the incident had traveled through channels the father thought he had left behind. The woman at the diner was not just anyone. She was a junior service member, recently transferred, struggling quietly with harassment she did not know how to report. What happened in that diner became the breaking point that exposed a pattern others had ignored. The Admiral spoke not of violence, but of courage. Not of fists, but of values. Inside the small living room, toys scattered on the floor, the father felt something unfamiliar. Validation. Not for his strength, but for his example. The Admiral spoke of integrity, of how actions ripple outward, of how one moment of intervention can alter lives far beyond its reach. He spoke of a daughter who would grow up knowing her father chose right when it mattered most. The father listened, his eyes drifting to the hallway where his daughter peeked around the corner, clutching a stuffed animal. He realized then that the real battle had never been in the diner. It had been inside him, between the desire to stay safe and the need to be brave in front of his child. In the days that followed, messages arrived from strangers. Quiet thanks. Shared stories. People who had been afraid, who had stayed silent, who saw something of themselves in the woman at the diner. The father did not respond to most of them. He focused on rebuilding a sense of peace at home, on helping his daughter with homework, on learning how to smile without guilt. But something had shifted. He began volunteering at her school, mentoring kids who lacked strong role models. He spoke at small community events about responsibility, not heroism. He reminded people that doing the right thing often feels inconvenient, risky, and lonely, but that it teaches children more than words ever could. The woman from the diner eventually wrote him a letter. She thanked him not for stopping the men, but for seeing her as worth protecting. She had filed her report. She was no longer silent. She was healing. As the father read the letter late one night, his daughter asleep in the next room, he felt the weight of loss lift just slightly. He had not saved the world. He had not erased pain. But he had shown his child that fear does not get the final say. If this story is touching your heart, if it reminds you of a moment when someone stood up for what was right, please take a second now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. And before the ending, leave a comment telling us what kindness means to you, or who taught you to be brave when it counted most. The next morning, the father walked his daughter to school as usual. She squeezed his hand and looked up at him with quiet certainty. The world was still complicated. Loss still hurt. Bills still waited. But in that simple walk, he knew something had changed forever. His daughter would grow up knowing that strength is not about power, but about protection. Not about fighting, but about caring enough to act. And somewhere between the clink of diner plates and the knock of an admiral at his door, a single dad learned that the greatest mission of his life was not one he trained for, but one he lived every day.